Hey everybody, it's Brian Emmer, and here with today's training camp report. This is July 31st, 2018. About to turn the calendar over to August, and a lot of news today out of Seahawks camp. We'll get to some of that in a second. Not all of it good, unfortunately. But I'm going to start off with a guy who honestly really showed me nothing last year through the entire camp. I mean, I maybe can remember one or two catches the whole time, fair number of drops, didn't end up showing up on special teams, really just was nondescript. And this guy was a third-round pick. And ironically, I've been just talking about him last night. And that guy is Amara Darboh. He had his best practice as a Seahawk. There's no question about it. He made, I would say, at least six catches today, maybe more. And one of them was my eye was on another drill, and I saw a deep ball go up along the left sideline, and some jersey flashed, a few feet above the crowd and above the defender, snatched the ball and came down, and everybody oohed and awed, and I was waiting to see who it was, and it was Amara Darboh. That was, I think, his first catch of the day, and went on to have a number of others. He had a great back shoulder catch in the end zone for a touchdown from Russell. Looking through my notes, yeah, I mean, he just did well today. I mean, that all by itself is of note because he hasn't done that so far in his career. And I was happy for the kid to be able to go in there and, make some plays. Maybe that'll give him some confidence. Maybe the team will feel like going back to him more. Maybe they can start to get some return on that third-round pick. So that was really nice to see. Another guy who continues to come on strong is Shaquem Griffin. Guy played really fast today. You can see him getting more confident. You can see him feeling like he knows where he's going. He showed up against the run. He was in the backfield at least 3 times, either turning a play back inside, sealing the edge, or making the tackle, sometimes for a loss. Was solid in coverage again. He was pumped. He was showing a lot of energy out there. So, this whole idea of him being kind of the team mascot, I think, is fading pretty quickly. I think he's starting to become a meaningful player for that team, and someone who could end up being, a starter at some point if he keeps on this trajectory. Not necessarily this year, but it's a guy who's starting to show some upside that's nice to see. Other things that kind of jumped out to me today, the team was running a lot of slants. Looking at their offense and what was maybe different than years past. Russell hasn't tended to throw a lot of slant routes, but there's a lot of those today. It might have been something they were just working on. Marcus Johnson had another nice day. He just looks like a really solid player. Had a nice catch and run after the catch where he made a couple guys miss. It was nice to see that from him. I hadn't seen that before. Maurice Alexander, number 35, got his first start at safety opposite of Bradley McDougald, and it didn't go so well. He got, let's see, who beat him deep? I think it was Jerron Brown, looking at my notes. I'm pretty sure it was Jerron. Yeah, Jerron Brown beats Alexander, and really it was Byron Maxwell and Maurice Alexander. For a 60-yard touchdown, a beautiful throw by Russell. Brown beat him, had both defenders beat by a couple of yards. And the coaches came up to Alexander afterwards. Generally over-the-top plays end up being the responsibility of the safety, especially down the middle of the field where this one was. So, Alexander played a little bit more after that, and then we saw Tedrick Thompson sub him out. So Tedrick Thompson took over. Don't know if that was, hey, just giving him a couple snaps coming back from injury, or if it was more punitive than that. And they're like, let's get Tedrick back in there and get him some reps. So that was interesting to see. Tyler Lockett continues to look really good, really spry, back to himself. Tyrone Swoops, the tight end, former quarterback out of Texas, had a nice day today. A number of catches, none of them particularly impressive, but he made the plays that were thrown to him. Seemed like a reliable player there. Brandon Jackson had a really nice day. 93. I've been bemoaning the Seahawks pass rush, and probably for good reason. And he was in the backfield quite a bit, and really showed some energy in the 1v1 pass rush drills as well. So he had a nice day. Tom Johnson, let me make sure I've got the right number there. Number 91. He showed up today, both in the run game. He walloped Rashad Penny on a sweep. Penny was about 5 yards down the field, and Johnson was coming down the line and just like knocked him to the ground. It was probably the hardest hit I saw today. So it's good to see Johnson do well. And then who else? Sticking on Brandon Jackson for a second, or back to him. In the pass rush drills, there was one play where he was up against Ethan Posick, and he just bull rushed him and walked him back 5 yards like that. Posick was on skates, as they say. So good news, bad news there. Good news that Jackson was showing some promise. Bad news that your starting left guard was dominated by, a rotational pass rusher. But, Posick's been relatively solid in other plays. This is one where he stood out as not being as solid. Let's see. Sticking with the offensive line for a second, Jamarco Jones, 73, had another nice day, as did 72 Skylar Phillips. I'm interested in seeing that pairing in the preseason games. I think they both have shown themselves pretty well. Dwayne Brown was given some pats on the back to Jamarco Jones during 1v1s. He's a little light, in his lower body, so I'm kind of curious how he holds up to stronger rushers down the line. But he's really technically sound, and he's got much quicker feet than a guy like Jermaine Ifedi. Like, it's much more staccato, and his ability to move his feet quickly and keep up with people around the edge. So I'm definitely intrigued by Jones and seeing what he can develop into for the team. Let's see. Other things, Jaron Reed, has looked quicker. I think overall he had a nice win against Justin Britt in 1v1s. A lot of misdirection today. There were a lot of bootlegs, a lot of fake read options, and then quick pass on a slant. A lot of movement to the offense. And again, you don't know if they're just installing certain things today, but it was interesting to see that a lot of the pass plays seem to be predicated off of, the implication or the threat of a running play. So I don't know if those are run pass option plays that they're getting ready to put in, if this is, classic just play action and they're just working on that. But almost every pass involves some sort of play action that I saw today. Let's see. Rasheem Green, 94, the rookie. He got some time with the starters today at 5 technique. So that was interesting to see. He didn't have a great day. He didn't have a bad day, but he didn't have a great day. Rashad Penny had a really nice cutback on one play early in practice, gained, probably 20, 30 yards. That was nice to see. Let's see. Besides that, I guess we got to get to some of the bad news. So we heard from Pete Carroll today that Deion Jordan's got some sort of stress injury. Usually a stress fracture is what they call that, on the leg, not the leg that was injured last year, but the other leg, and is going to be out for a while. That sounds like into the season at least. And in addition to that, Carroll unveiled that Doug Baldwin has a knee issue and is going to be out at least a couple of weeks, and the way he put it is, we're going to keep him out for a couple of weeks and then try to see how his knee's feeling. The way I interpret that is he's got an injury that isn't going to heal in a couple of weeks. They want to see if it's good enough that he can play through it. That's potentially a pretty catastrophic pair of injuries at places that the team does not have a lot of depth. Edge pass rushing with Deion Jordan, it's really thin there, really thin. And if you lose Doug Baldwin, you're talking about Tyler Lockett being your number one, and maybe Jerron Brown being your number two. Maybe it puts more pressure on Brandon Marshall actually working out and being someone who can be a legitimate starter at receiver. But we'll wait and see. I think the Baldwin news is definitely concerning, but there's nothing you can do about it. See how this thing plays out. I think it's impossible to replace someone like Doug Baldwin if that's what ends up needing to happen. So the team's going to have to see what's possible and try to develop these young players.